Welcome to beautiful Boulder, Colorado. We're here with Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2012 College Championships. I'm Brian Jones here with Mario O'Brien and Tyler Kinley. We have an exciting semifinal matchup here with Pittsburgh En Sabah Nur playing off against Carleton College the CUT. This matchup features the 2 and 3 seeds battling up everything as held the seeds so far. We have Carleton besting Central Florida and Pittsburgh besting Minnesota in the quarterfinals to get here. What can we expect to see from Pittsburgh, Mario?
We're going to see from Pittsburgh what we've seen all year. We're going to see two of the best players in the country. That's Alex Thorne and Tyler DiGirolamo working together, generating opportunities for goals all over the field. Thorne, Callahan nominee, notoriously one of the best players in the country. Cutting, he's fast, he can throw deep, and he loves to throw to DiGirolamo. On the other side of the ball, Pittsburgh is known for their lockdown defense. Coach Kazmarek, I talked to him earlier this year, says they pride themselves on their lockdown defense. What that means is they love and commit to taking away the underneath open side D. Then what that creates is a situation where once the defense gets shut down, it goes to the handler D, and they shut their man down and leads to a higher stall count, and that's where they love to generate their Ds. Overall, Pittsburgh and Carleton, very, very similar. They're both very systematic. They're both well coached. They both have what is now a rich tradition for Pittsburgh, and of course, the long tradition of Carleton. It's going to be an evenly matched game, and it's going to come down to me for Pittsburgh, basically how well DiGirolamo and Thorne can lead their team.
Pittsburgh is coached by Nick Kazmarek, a finalist for the SCID All-American Award for the head coach of the year, also featuring 2 All-Americans with Alex Thorne and Tyler DiGirolamo. Carleton, on the other hand, coached by Phil Bowen, featuring Julian Childs-Walker, a SCID All-American, and playmakers in Justin Norton and Simon Montague.
This game, Carleton's really got a few things they're going to key in on. First is their short-term memory. Coach Phil Bowen said at the start of this game that they're going to have a short-term memory. What he means by that is good or bad, if there's a drop, forget about it. If they scored, forget about it. Think 1 point, 1 play, 1 possession at a time. The next piece is they're going to have a very possession-minded offense. They're going to take care of the disc, they're going to take clean looks, and they have the throwers to do so effectively. Finally, he keyed in on matchups. I asked him who on Pitt he wanted to focus on. It was 3 players, Max and Alex Thorne, the brothers, and finally Tyler DiGirolamo. And he's got certain matchups, and we'll see what he goes with here.
Thorne gets things started with a pull. Caffrey almost handing it off to Norton, and we see man defense in a horizontal stack for Carleton. Norton, so deadly with the disc, the main handler, dynamic. Looking back for Herskew.
Pittsburgh doing an excellent job, as we said, taking away the underneath on the open side, forcing Carleton to either break the mark or just swing the disc.
Norton to Herskew. Carleton, very patient, known for their machine-like consistency. Childs Walker. Norton. Looking for Caffrey. Caffrey in the middle of the field. Great movement up the line by these Carleton handlers. Stewart.
We're seeing something that we saw from Carleton in the game that we covered earlier this weekend. Their ability to break the mark on the inside backhand was what opened up the field for them, and eventually what led to nice around breaks with the forehand.
Right now, if you were to divide the field vertically from one side to the other, the disc is spent 100% of the time on the side it currently is on. They have not used the open side once.
And give credit to the Pittsburgh defense for shutting down the cuts over to that side.
But you'll notice, even when they swung it from that side to the middle of the field, especially to Justin Norton, he didn't even look to continue onto that side. He's still just attacking the break.
Stewart back to Norton. Call on the play. Big matchup there. Stewart and DiGirolamo, 2 big men in the ultimate, both 6'3", 6'4", very large. Stewart very fast, same with DiGirolamo. Herskew trying to play the give and go game with Norton, so tough to stop.
Ben Caffrey, number 48 on Carleton, being left almost wide open at times, but they never look to him.
Norden looking for the around, finding Childs Walker for the first score of the game. Finds his man Clark for the goal.
Carleton, almost every throw that was a gainer was a break throw on that one.
And as you said, many of them were that inside backhand. The one that opened it up, the throw to Julian Childs Walker, was an around forehand, but most everything besides that was the inside backhand.
And this is also something that we saw earlier that I thought Colorado made a mistake when they played against Carleton earlier in the tournament. They forced backhand the entire game, and those backhand breaks are far easier than an inside-out forehand.
We'll see the contrast between two different offenses, both featuring great players. Pittsburgh utilizing Thorne and DiGirolamo from the cutting positions, whereas Carleton just showcased their dynamic handler movement with breaks with Norden and Hurski. I got to talk briefly with defensive standout on Carleton, Simon Montague. Hurt his elbow earlier on in the tournament, still seems to be favoring it a little bit, but he should be good to go.
Now we get to see some of these matchups. What we talked about before is Max and Alex Thorne. Max is number 13 for Pitt. Alex Thorne number 21, and Tyler DiGirolamo number 81.
Saul centering to Thorne. Thorne back in the handler position, and we see a rare zone by Carleton.
Here the matchup's not being utilized, instead for a team defensive zone.
Thorne, Kunsa upfield, caught by the other younger Thorne, Max. Max is only a freshman, one of our finalists for Freshman of the Year. Aaron Hahn taking that award on Oregon. Big deed early on. Reynolds on DiGirolamo.
That's freshman John Reynolds. They depend on him for getting blocks. He is a great player and just a freshman.
Reynolds up to Hurski. Thorne trying to poach off. Kunsa trying to find his man. Montague. Watson on the mark. Upfield, Norden. Montague. Dishing for the score and the break to Weiss.
That is big. The wind is starting to pick up here. That's as if they got an upwinder and then a downwinder.
And I think we're seeing something that's going to be consistent through the rest of the game is the contrasting styles in where their offenses run through. Pittsburgh has very dominant cutters. Yes, Alex Thorne, great thrower, but he actually usually starts in the stack, whereas Carleton, most of their best players are handlers. You're talking about Montague and Norden, and those guys can control the disc with their break throws. That break, once they were on the turn, it was just Montague and Norden opening up space with their fakes and allowing for an easy goal.
Simon Montague is a very interesting handler to watch. A lot of times the decisions he makes, they are not necessarily intuitive. When he's the hub handler in the center of the field and a swing pass goes to him, you don't always see him swing it. A lot of times he will then re-attack the same side it came from and drive up line. That counterintuitive motion can sometimes throw defenders off. They think they know what to expect, and he doesn't do it. His release points are also very interesting, very far. It's interesting to watch his game.
I love watching him play. He's virtually unmarkable out there.
DiGirolamo. The wind is around 15 miles an hour. We'll see both teams have throwers to deal with this wind. Thorne to Kunsa.
The matchups we see here, Logan Weiss on DiGirolamo. That's a matchup they spoke about.
Fitting it in to Thorne for the goal, and Pittsburgh gets on the board with some quick offense.
I'm interested to see that we've seen all backhand force from both teams. When you're throwing in the wind, a backhand is a much easier throw. I think that both teams need to mix it up a little bit here, make them throw some flicks.
The difference between a backhand force and a forehand force often comes down to the speed with which you can release the throw. A backhand takes some time, gives just a moment's extra for a defender to recognize and try to react, whereas the forehand can come off in a lightning flash. I like sometimes forcing backhand. The other difference is it's hard to really guide the shape of a backhand the same way you can a forehand. A forehand has a little more edge to it, where it's a little tougher to put that same sort of edge to a backhand. However, again, as you noted, the throwers here, very strong. They've got all the throws.
And the thing is about throwing a backhand is you can put a lot more touch on a backhand than you can on a forehand. And in wind, I think it comes down to that a lot. It's a lot easier to just put that touch on it and put it exactly where you want to, because it's not necessarily about the shape when you're playing in wind, because a lot of throws just need to be flat. It's really just about the touch and putting it out to the right space.
Poachy zone here from Pittsburgh. Rotating here and poaching off the handlers, trying to not allow any break throws through the mark, and we have a call on the play. These two teams matched up twice this year. Pittsburgh facing off with Carleton at warm-up in early February. Carleton getting the best of them, but Pittsburgh ended up winning the tournament over Central Florida. And then they met again in the semifinals of Stanford Invite, where Pittsburgh came out on top with a Universe Point win. Pittsburgh has kind of played the little brother role to this Carleton team, losing to them in quarterfinals in 2009, losing to them in semifinals of 2010. They have not been able to get over that hump. Carleton, however, has been to the last 3 title games. Clark looking deep for Stewart. Stewart brings it home. 3-1, Carleton leads.
If Carleton is going to be able to convert on hucks as well as their inside-out breaks and their handler domination, that's going to leave the Pittsburgh defenders frustrated and feeling like they can't take away anything.
Nick Stewart's a real difference maker athletically. If they can involve him early, the Pittsburgh team will have to recognize that, will have to game plan against it. And that takes a burden off of the rest of the Carleton players, because he will draw a tough matchup. If he can create a level of dominance early, it's really going to be a difference maker for Carleton throughout the rest of the game.
See, the CUT has a sizable crowd here. Wind is still blowing steady but swirling. Right now, more of a crosswind rather than a pure upwind, downwind. Pittsburgh's offense had an easy 0 point. Let's see how Carleton can adjust on defense.
Another interesting thing to talk about with these two teams is the pedigree of the players coming into the game. And both teams have a lot of players that played in high school, but Carleton tends to get a lot of their players, they end up getting them a lot from the Seattle area, whereas Pittsburgh is all homegrown talent. The Pittsburgh youth scene rivals Seattle's as one of the best in the nation.
Max Thorne. Reynolds is there, though. The freshman making plays early on, his second D of the game.
John Reynolds coming up huge. You can see him go up nice and early. Max Thorne, the younger brother of Alex Thorne, unable to go up well. He's a bit of a height difference there.
Started out Montague to Keller.
I love watching the Carleton offense. When they sense they're getting too deep in the stack, they all sprint underneath.
Childs Walker trying to give chase. Comes down with it outside of the end zone. Looking for another break for Carleton. Montague holsters his hammer.
We all saw that potential.
Quick flip, and Reynolds gains an assist and gets half of the bookends. Carleton is rolling early on here, up 4-1.
Logan Weiss's forehand was fantastic there. Putting Julian out to space, giving him an easy catch. This is a threatening Carleton team when all these players can make plays.
Will Carleton be able to push on the gas pedal, or will Pittsburgh be able to regroup? We'll find out. We'll be back after a break. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2012 College Championships. And we're back here in Boulder, Colorado. Pittsburgh down 4-1. Now coming in on offense, Carleton rolling early on. Harold getting set to pull. This one's going to drop and blade down, ensuring that stays in bounds. Isaac Saul. Kunta. Saul. Kunta, give and go. Thorne rifles a flick to his brother, just out of reach. Going out of bounds. Montague picking it up. Mistakes early are costing Pittsburgh.
Pitt having trouble finding their men a little early there.
Montague. Upfield. Keller.
Awkward dump set.
Back to Montague.
Watch Montague move everyone on the field with his fakes.
And this one he's floating up. Getting out of bounds and tries the greatest hit. Foul called on the play.
Oh my goodness, what an event. Nick has to go up real early here. People are saying that his foot was jumped from out of bounds. The observer's discussing.
K-N-I! Looks like his toe was on the line when he went up.
That
Still
would
an
have
incredible,
been
an incredible play.
Something else.
And a backbreaker if they're able to come up with a goal in that fashion.
Goals like that really give momentum to the team that successfully completes them.
Then we also have a call here discussing a possible foul. No foul, overturned by the observer. Looks like a good call.
Montague with an interesting decision after being able to pick apart the defense with whatever throw he wanted. I was very surprised by that choice.
The inside-out backhand also opened up to the wind. The wind has substantially shifted. Now his throw essentially going into the wind.
Nick, you have nothing here. Nick, go find something. Go find Nick. There's nothing. Go. Go.
And we see a zone again from Carleton.
Hey, reverse flag.
The force's forehand. A call
Travel
is made.
called. Once again, Kunta. Thorne. Back to Kunta. Thorne's so deadly with his throws. Loves the high release flick. Goes inside to Brenner. Throws it to a poach, trying to find DiGirolamo. Harold. Montague. To Harold. Back to Montague. Finding Stewart. Montague once again. This time trying for the around. Is it there? Yes. Carleton cannot be stopped right now. 5-1 they lead.
Simon Montague cannot be stopped. When he's making the right decision, he is unguardable with his throws. He opened up the field with an inside break from one sideline to the other sideline, goes back and gets the disc. Dishy, sees space on the other side of the field and throws a much easier throw than the inside-out backhand that he threw before. Less chance for it to catch wind. Throws a bladier forehand. No defender for the goal.
The story of the game right now is not Carleton's excellence. That's expected. The story is Pitt's mistakes. This is uncharacteristic. That was a throw directly into a poach. It was the right spot for Will Harold to be, but he just was delivered a block. That was not anything huge. Now we're going to go in and see what the Pitt huddle is talking about.
Let's go, boys. Start getting pumped up. We win this game.
Reassurance that they're in the game. They need that kind of rhetoric. Something's got to change.
Right now, we need to see. We've seen Carleton with Norden and Herskew dominate the offensive side of the disc when necessary. We've seen Montague be the playmaker on the defensive side of this. We need to see a Thorne and DiGirolamo dominate this next possession here and get Pittsburgh back on the board and allow their defense to make plays.
And it's hard for a guy like DiGirolamo to dominate in conditions like this. He thrives when there's no wind, when his throwers can put anything to space. And these conditions, although the wind is not overpowering the game, it definitely limits his game. We saw that in our earlier game. The Hodag cutters were virtually eliminated by the wind, and it became a handler's game. That favors Carleton right now.
The matchups to watch for here on Carleton CUT: number 8, Logan Weiss, number 9, Simon Montague, number 25, Nick Stewart, and number 10, John Reynolds. These are the 4 defensive players that they've given the toughest matchups to. Right now, Max Thorne, number 13 on Pitt, Alex Thorne, number 21 on Pitt, and number 81, Tyler DiGirolamo are the ones they are keying in on. We expect CUT to use Logan, Simon, Nick, and John to defend them. We'll see who they choose to go on them.
Renner going back, centering it to Thorne.
This is Simon Montague on Alex Thorne.
Kunsa, Thorne. Back to Kunsa. Swing it around. Saul goes up for it. DiGirolamo underneath. Kunsa and Pittsburgh here moving it quickly and efficiently. Back to Saul. Thorne. Saul. DiGirolamo springs free. Weiss. Big matchup there. Out in front, Kunsa. Flip to Thorne. Big break to DiGirolamo. Looking for any options over the top, finding Thorne. Pittsburgh back on the board, stops the bleeding, 5-2.
There we saw John Reynolds, number 10, already logging in 2 blocks. He was up against Max Thorne. I think that matchup is a great one. That's a great decision from Carleton.
2 young players, Reynolds coming from Seattle, Max Thorne coming from Pittsburgh's YCC team Impulse. Pittsburgh also full of athletic freshmen. Trent Dillon, Pat Earls also on the squad. We'll see if Dillon will get his first point of the game, and if the Pittsburgh D-line can come out and start to make a difference.
That defense could have been a bit more focused on that end zone line. You know that throw is coming. You've got to be dialed in.
That's sort of what I was alluding to before. When you're forcing backhand, those throws like that are open. If that's a forehand mark, that has to be a high release forehand or a lefty, which is significantly more difficult than that high release backhand.
Connor with the pull for Pittsburgh. Center to Norden. And defense here. Big physicality with Connor versus Stewart. We have a stoppage on the play. Connor and Stewart both matching up against each other. Connor being physical to begin with, and Stewart responding.
See Trent Dillon matched up against that first dump. He's a great dump defender. He likes to face guard and just make the pass go somewhere else.
Norden looking for an option. Call on the play.
Dillon did an excellent job forcing that first handler downfield, and Norden looked flustered. The stall count is now high. If you look around, every Pitt player is between the disc and their defender. Norden saying, where am I going to throw this right now? He needs to communicate with his cutters to generate an open pass.
Gerskew calling for a foul. Observers letting it go, overruling it. So we remain on a high stall. Norden trying to fit one in, and there's a turnover Pittsburgh needs. Dropcho. Marcus Dropcho has been a big standout for this Pittsburgh D-line all year long, and we see captain Zach Kaufman also with the disc. Dillon goes up, can't make the grab, just a bit too high. Wasted opportunity for Pittsburgh. Norden Again, not much available, forced to make a tough throw to Caffrey. Around to Stewart, falls down. Norton back.
Brian, you noted earlier that this is going to be a matchup of two very similar systematic teams. However, the notable difference that you mentioned was Pitt relies on its cutters to generate its offensive success, whereas it's clear right now CUT is really relying on its handlers to place discs and to generate movement. The cutters downfield a little less active, really depending on throwers to make tough break mark throws or simply opening up the break side with their own handler movement.
Caffrey.
And the adjustment to go flick here
Wow.
by Pittsburgh has affected the play immediately. There's no more of those easy inside breaks. We saw a turnover earlier because Norton had to throw a much more difficult inside-out forehand throw.
Drop show got horizontal for that one, couldn't get the D. Mike Clark comes down with a tough catch. Stays in the game after contact. Pittsburgh defense really ramping things up.
Yeah, shoot to the back, shoot to the back.
Clark looking back. Io Dillon with the D.
Dillon coming up huge. He's having a great point defensively.
Fantastic dump defense there. Each time it forced a tough throw.
Kaufman, drop show. Lift up to Connor. For the inside, Kaufman, flip out to space. Big layout, and Pittsburgh, once again, could not capitalize. Norton.
Pittsburgh defensive offense there, showcasing three really difficult throws in a row. The final one not coming up.
Pittsburgh, both offenses on the offensive and defensive side, guilty of moving a little too quickly.
Carleton offense needs to get the ball moving quicker. They're standing and watching a little bit too much right now, and they're having to resort to either tough dump passes or hucks that are difficult downfield throws.
Looks like we have a possible injury here for a Pittsburgh player. Tyler Kunsa, younger brother of Jason Kunsa. Make him a little bit lame.
What I'm seeing here from the Pitt defense is the embodiment of Coach Kazmarek coming through on the field. He is a defensive-minded coach. He loves that lockdown style defense, saying, everybody do your job. It's not necessarily about help defense. It's about everybody winning their matchup defensively and forcing a difficult throw. I love it.
That's a good point. It really led to Trent Dillon's D back there. We like to call those coverage sacks, where it's a forced late in the stall count throw. Everyone's playing their good defense. They're forcing that late count tough throw, and you get a block.
Connor pops one over the top, and again, Pittsburgh just overthrowing here on the defensive line. Thorne matched up with Montague. Childs Walker. Herskew. Norton. Herskew once again. Pitt called on the play.
Here we see Jonah Herskew, Simon Montague, Justin Norton. They are the ones generating the flow of this offense.
Thorne matched up on Montague. I think he's just going to try to deny him the disc. Pittsburgh has recognized that everything seems to be going through Montague. They put one of their best overall players and best defenders, Alex Thorne, on him to try to limit his availability.
Norton starting again. Herskew. Wide open is Clark. Had the flip open to Montague in tight spaces. Carleton so comfortable, and the inside break, a big bid, but does not work out. 6-2, Carleton leads.
And I love the fundamentals on this play. You're going to see Justin Norton fake the backhand that moves the mark over for this inside-out throw. Norton exhibiting excellent fundamentals. You're going to see it on the swing pass. Fake the backhand just to move the mark a little bit, for the inside throw. That's the system, that's the culture creating a goal.
It is amazing how Carleton is so comfortable working in tight spaces. Those handlers, so comfortable with the inside breaks, the arounds, just working up together. Not many teams can do that.
And all these guys just won a national championship last year. These guys, Herskew, Norden, Montague, they've been playing together for not only a long time, but they've played together in big games before. They're ready for this game, and they're playing fantastic.
Still have to think that that might be a small mental victory for Pittsburgh's defense, proving that they can stop Carleton's O-line. They just need to find a way to convert on those breaks.
Yeah, Pittsburgh blew multiple opportunities in that point.
Saul. Pick called on the play.
Remembering back to the Stanford invite, Coach Nick Kazmarek noted that it's really Pitt that can play themselves out of games. They have the tendency to drop discs, to overthrow discs, to make careless, unforced errors, and we're seeing that a little bit today.
Thorne.
And even though the Carleton defense is pretty good, they just don't give it up once they get the disc.
Saul to Thorne. Simon Montague taking a wide angle, trying to cut off any possible break throw. DiGirolamo, Saul, flip back and forth. You can see a lot of trust with the Pittsburgh throwers. And that is the way that they are identical in cut. Lots of trust. Kunsa to Saul. Thorne is there for a second goal of the game, and Carleton is still up 6-3, but Pittsburgh now settling down in this game.
And that's what makes Pitt so dangerous, is they can hurt you in so many ways. I love watching them play when they move the disc quickly. Thorne, obviously one of the greatest huckers in the game, but when Pittsburgh decides that we don't have to huck, we just need to move that disc before stall 3, allowing the mark not to set provides a huge advantage for the offense.
Carleton, again, a storied franchise, multiple national championships. Been here, won it in 2009 over Colorado, lost to Florida in 2010, and then won it on this field last year in 2011 over Wisconsin. Looking to get back yet again. Pittsburgh just trying to break through, first making nationals back in 2005, then out of the Metro East, now in the Ohio Valley, coming out. They started to build that program and make quarterfinals back in 2009 and seemed to hit their peak at semis. And since then, they've been struggling to go and see if they become that national championship team.
Pitt's defense needs to step the intensity up, really bring the pressure, continue to apply good dump defense here.
Montague again on offense, usually a defensive starter. We've seen him come in, play a lot of points. Childs Walker. Big play, coming up with it. Norden, travel called on the play. A little traffic there. Wind seemed to take that one.
That's an iffy call.
Childs Walker. Looking for Herskew. Montague. Stewart, Connor giving chase. Long.
Pittsburgh playing some physical defense. They are picking up the intensity, as you said, Tyler. They can sense that this is a critical break that they need to get. Norden saying there's too much contact on the cut, calling a foul.
Long. Had Montague back. Still there. Hausman giving lots of respect to Montague. Herskew. Norden gets open. Missed opportunity for a switch call. by Pittsburgh. This one popped up in the air. Childs Walker comes down with it.
Getting a bit crowded over there for Carleton. They need to spread out. There they go.
Norden to Montague. Both so dangerous near the end zone.
Each very willing to take a dump pass that doesn't necessarily provide them a ton, but
Montague
opens
and a
things
missed
up.
opportunity by Long.
Now Pitt needs to control this disc. They need to maintain possession. They can't have another careless error.
Long was there. Just couldn't reel in the grab. Call on the play.
This is a very tough situation for Pitt. You don't have Thorne out there, no DiGirolamo. You're pinned in the corner. Look for Carleton to clamp down.
On the defensive side of this, we definitely do not see the offensive prowess on Pitt that we see on Carleton. And right off the bat, Childs Walker gets the D back. Carleton with a short field to work with. Montague.
Excellent job by Carleton moving it off the sideline immediately.
Montague putting it to space.
Wow.
And once again, Carleton is up by 4, 7-3.
Carleton simply looks comfortable. You can note that their offense, incredibly patient. Their defense has also looked a little too comfortable. They need to have both sides of the coin with a patient offense, but a more ferocious defense. But it's working for them. They have this lead. It's a cushion. They feel good. You can tell they're a confident team right now.
We're seeing the defensive pressure of Pittsburgh
Good D.
amping up, but cannot convert. Wondering if we're going to see Thorne or DiGirolamo on the defensive line to try to get some points back before halftime.
The Pitt O-line now on the field, on the line, huddled, chatting. Alex Thorne, Max Thorne standing brother to brother next to Tyler DiGirolamo. They'll lean on these three heavily this point. We haven't seen the downfield prowess that we expect out of Tyler DiGirolamo. Presumably, because of what Mario noted, the wind does affect things. The throws are different. You need to work the break side a bit more, but Tyler's a big-time player. You can expect he's going to demand the disc. He's going to have an impact.
And it's tough for Pittsburgh right now. They're not executing poorly on offense. The offense looks okay, but they've just had uncharacteristic turnovers, throwing errors, drops. I mean, that's, as you said, Tyler, that's been their Achilles heel in games that they've struggled, and it's happening here today.
You might even call them characteristic turnovers at this point. This is exactly as you said, this is what's plagued them. It's their own mistakes rather than any other team's real pressure.
And that's against a team like Carleton, maybe more than against any other team in the country. You just can't afford to make those types of mistakes.
Saul, DiGirolamo, Watson.
Carleton going with the backhand force, and we see once again 2 inside-out backhands for gainers.
Here we see Logan Weiss matched up against Tyler DiGirolamo.
Watson, Thorne. Just putting it deep. DiGirolamo is there. Can he run it down?
And that's the wind right there. That Alex Thorne never messes up that throw.
And yet, we see it happen.
Montague, this one for half. This would be devastating for Pittsburgh. An 8-3 halftime lead would be difficult.
This is
Weiss.
a beautiful throw.
Weiss comes down with it, calls the timeout, doesn't even look upfield. And Carleton is getting set to break for half.
Taking half, 8-3, that is a large deficit to overcome. Both just the score-wise and mentally for a team. Going into half down 5, not easy.
Let's see if we get an inside look here at Carleton's huddle.
We got Nick is the back of the stack. He's a bailout under to the cone if he needs it, or a hammer if he needs it.
And it's coming in at 0.
We can run blue.
So we have all the time in the world.
Hey, I'm 3 in this stack.
I'm 1.
No.
With your legs.
You're a hammer.
Yeah, I'm 1. Will's 2. Low's front of the stack.
Where am I?
I have the dish. Yours dish.
Oh,
Are you in?
What you note there from the get-go is the game-changing ability of Nick Stewart. At the end, at the high count, they rely on him to simply athletically beat his man with his speed from the back of the stack to the front cone. Guys like Nick Stewart, Dylan Freechild in the past, Grant Lindsley, Josh Zipperstein, those are the types of players that just, you can't really stop them.
Can't take away anything.
You can't stop them in a speed game. And that really offers bailout opportunities.
Things have started. Weiss looking back, forced to go inside, and a quick score for Carleton. Takes half, 8-3.
John Reynolds, freshman.
The throwers of Carleton are the story here. It's Montague breaking the mark. They generate a turn, an uncharacteristic turn. Montague throws the best upwind forehand we've seen on this field today. They call timeout, break mark to an easy goal. Carleton is in control.
Carleton's in control. Pitt noticeably shaken going into this half.
Pittsburgh almost looks defeated. Will Pittsburgh be able to rally in the second half? We'll find out in our second half coverage. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2012 College Championships. Here we have 8-5 Carleton lead for Pittsburgh. I'm Brian Jones here with Mario Bryan, Tyler Kinley, and we just saw Pittsburgh put a defensive stand on the goal line and be able to come back in and work it down the field.
Pittsburgh's defense it just woke up. We noted on the sidelines that we expected Pitt to wake up at some point. It's clear they did. That was a goal line stand from Pitt's D. The strange thing there was the handler movement from CUT. It wasn't what we expected. Oftentimes they'll line up with the dump side handler on the open side. There it was consistently on the break side. It kept flooding the open side. They kept moving closer and closer to the open side. And Simon Montague put up a very floating hammer to the break side. Had it been not floating, it could have been completed. However, it hung. Somehow the CUT receiver made a great catch but couldn't tow it in the back of that smaller end zone line. 2 throws later, Pitt is in the end zone for the break.
Clark comes up with no turnover, can't hang on to it.
Pitt.
Drop toe. Kaufman, DiGirolamo.
Here we see Tyler DiGirolamo with the disc, and Alex Thorne was streaking for him. Alex, very fast as a deep cutter.
Not a lot of space there in this upwind side for him to cut into.
Drop toe. Finding Dylan. Dylan back to drop toe. DiGirolamo. Pittsburgh working towards another break. Finding Kaufman, quick flip to drop toe. Kaufman, flip to DiGirolamo, and Pittsburgh is back in this game, only down by 2 now.
Excellent quick disc movement. The stall at -1 almost on the movement of that disc. No CUT defender could even catch up.
And that goes down to the system of their end zone. It's give and go. Anytime you dump to the open side, you follow your throw, because what that's going to do is that's going to make the entire defense adjust. If you don't throw it, the mark is going to bite, the defender's going to bite, and that opens up all kinds of break throws. Excellent end zone execution from Pittsburgh.
5 throws in about 3 seconds there. Pitt clearly feeling the momentum shift. Suddenly, it's a game.
Both sidelines trying to find the energy here. Pittsburgh on a run. Finding their legs. Fortunately for Clark on the Back-to-back turnovers. One that he made a great play on, but just was slightly out of bounds. And the next one, he almost another equally great play, but just couldn't hang on the layout. Thorne, high arcing pull. Montague lets it drop, finding Herskew.
Here comes the lockdown from Pittsburgh. They're not going to give up anything easy underneath. The handlers are going to be super tight.
Herskew, Montague. No Norden right now for Carleton.
Here they let the disc go to that forehand sideline and then pinned it there.
Childs Walker coming in to rescue. Not something we normally see from Carleton. That long Montague. Call on the play.
On both sides of the disc, we see Tyler DiGirolamo versus Simon Montague. Here, Tyler starting out on defense against Simon. In the last point, Simon was against Tyler.
I love that adjustment by Pitt. DiGirolamo is long, and Simon Montague loves to break inside and around with those long throws. Putting DiGirolamo on him limits his ability to break the mark.
Perfect throw to Herskew, and Childs Walker putting out a flick. Reynolds running it down, comes down with it inbounds. Carleton holds 9-6.
John Reynolds is a name we're going to hear many times. Travel call, though. Just a freshman.
Merely a freshman.
Observer couldn't come up with the catch there. It's not his role.
Reynolds was tearing up this game early, getting a couple of Ds and a goal. Would have been his second of the game. Montague looking back for Herskew, now putting it up to Stewart, popped in the air, and here's another turnover.
DiGirolamo really affected that throw, made Montague come back to the inside.
Putting it deep for Hausman. Comes down with it, and Pittsburgh is within one. What a turn of events.
And what I loved to see there is that was a full team decision on D. They clearly allowed throws to the forehand side to handlers, and once there, they shifted the mark to prevent any backhand arounds. It forced that inside-out throw. You know that Carleton has those throws. However, as a defensive unit, you need to choose what you take away and choose what you give up. In this case, they chose to give up that inside, and it proved effective. There's a little less of a high percentage throw. It puts the onus on the downfielders to get open on that break side, and you're putting it in the hands of the downfielders when you know the strength of Carleton's team is in its handler set.
It's interesting, we haven't seen Carleton look this weak from the handler spot, and we haven't seen them forced with us IOs to look for cutters in emergencies. It worked a little bit with Childs Walker, but they're trying to find Stewart after the handlers got shut down. Just not the play we usually see from Carleton. We usually see Norden, Montague, Herskew working it just within each other.
A lot of times I think it was that mark shifting, not allowing an easy backhand dump and forcing the throw to go downfield on the inside out.
And the fact that it was a forehand mark was critical. A forehand inside-out break is much more difficult than the backhand inside-out break, and that's where the turnover came.
Beautiful pull, not quite, just out of bounds for Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh also finding success in its deep game. 3 of the 4 last goals have been on hucks. They've got that opened up.
Here we see Carleton have already taken their timeout early in the second half, and they are down to 1. I wonder if this is forcing Phil Bowen to not use this timeout early on and just let Carleton ride out this momentum shift. Norden back in the game. Big layout by Connor, can't get there. Stewart back to Montague. Putting it deep, Stewart is open. This one's floating. Stewart rips it down. Carleton leads 9-7.
A great catch, but in traffic, I wouldn't call that high percentage.
That's a big boy making a big play.
(9-7). We've got ourselves a game. Going into half at 8-3, it didn't look hopeful for Pitt, but now it could be a barn burner.
We saw earlier in the game, we saw in the first half 95% completion percentage for Carleton and an 88% completion percentage for Pittsburgh. Now we're looking at 94 for Carleton, dipping down a few turnovers in Pittsburgh, upping up to 90. We're starting to see the stats converge a little bit and see this game get a little bit more evened up.
Any completion percentage below 90%, I don't know how you can win a game that way.
We do see the touches for Carleton. We see Simon Montague with 31, Norden with 34, Herskew second most with 20. We expect that Montague, Herskew, and Norden to run the offense through them. Alex Thorne, on the other hand, has 23 touches, and for him, it has not been a good game. 20 for 23, 87% completion percentage. We expect a little bit better out of Thorne, although he is making riskier decisions.
It's true. And realistically, it's not necessarily the completion percentage, but the disparity between the two teams. Very close.
Thorne almost on the line, making the catch. DiGirolamo. Younger Max Thorne. Kunsa. Watson. Kunsa running it down. Carleton defender also there. Thorne. Montague trying to get very wide and step off, and Thorne is still throwing around the mark. We have a call on the play. No travel.
You see that far open side dump being defended by John Reynolds. He also made that near bid. He's coming up very big this game for Carleton.
Thorne. Call on the play.
Now we'll get to see Pittsburgh in this foul call, calling their end zone set. We'll get to see how they position themselves, what kind of end zone offense they run.
Thorne checking the disc in. Looking for DiGirolamo in isolation.
No dump.
Back up in the air, and younger brother Max rips it down.
Thorne to Thorne.
Hey, here we go, boy.
Younger brotherly connection. Max Thorne, the freshman. Alex Thorne, fourth year Callahan nominee for Pittsburgh.
Alex Thorne really coming through big for his team right now. It was his break throws in that point that opened everything up. And for the goal, that's a difficult throw. That flip out to space. His margin for error was not that big. Exhibiting great chemistry with Max Thorne.
We saw Alex Thorne still able to throw around Simon Montague even when Montague was nearly 10 feet off the mark. That's incredible skill with the disc. And we also, Tyler, you brought up how it's very hard to shape the body of a throw with a backhand. That's something that Alex Thorne is actually very good at with his backhands, putting it pinpoint just to the area it needs to be.
This Callahan video impressed the nation with not necessarily massive plays, but his ability to throw throws that create incredibly easy plays. They just sit on a shelf in front of an offender. They give the defender very little chance to make a play. He makes the game look pretty.
Colin Connor with the pull. We see Trent Dillon on the field getting a layout D earlier this game, and Connor just too strong, putting it out the back.
Across the board, in every game we've watched here, pulls have a massive impact. They can be the difference between a break and not, and I'm disappointed in every out-of-bounds pull I see, especially just simply too deep.
Norden trying to strike deep immediately. This one, Weiss would have had to make a great play to reel that in, and Pittsburgh has another opportunity. This time, can they put it in without Thorne or DiGirolamo out in the field? They have their regular defensive line.
Horizontal stack, clearing the middle space. Great start.
Call on the play.
That was an interesting beginning. Both center cutters simply went to the sidelines. They opened it up, and the primary cutters then became those standing on the sidelines.
The foul call on the play overruled by the observer. Logan Weiss trying to call a push off on the throw. Connor will retain the disc. Nick Stewart matching up.
Trent Dillon downfield has steps.
Throwing behind, finding Kunsa. Kunsa putting it out for Hausman. Montague giving chase.
Is it too deep? Wow!
Ruled inbounds in Pittsburgh. down 8-3, has rallied to tie this game at 9s.
They are living on the edge, but they're completing these. These are not easy hucks to be completed.
Kunsa to Julian Hausman. Julian Hausman has been a standout defender for Pittsburgh all year long, making a huge play there, also catching one on the opposite end zone before.
Hausman has been incredible. Tracked down one from Alex Thorne earlier in the game, going to his back shoulder, and this is an incredibly difficult play that he just made. This was a laser beam huck. He dragged his foot. Montague was giving chase. You can't give Hausman enough credit for the play he just made.
Look at this catch. Defended, able to get one foot in bound, towing it in. The other thing I really liked about that play was the throw that led up to the huck. It was actually behind. It was to a cutter cutting away. He just threw it behind him, knowing the cutter's going to stop and know what to do. Come back, receive it. It's a smart throw. It's an aware cutter. It's an aware thrower. It's really symbolic of this Pitt sophistication on offense.
9-9, 11 minutes till soft cap. And again, I want to point out the timeout situation. Carleton taking that timeout early in the second half. Maybe, are they saving it right now? It's been so many breaks so far for Pittsburgh. Wouldn't you want to recuperate as a coach?
I think what it speaks to is the coach's his belief that their mental composure is strong enough to just answer back.
Stewart overthrows, but Long comes up huge, saving possession for Carleton. The upfield finding Childs Walker. Long. Around to no one.
Oh, wow.
The mental errors are piling up here for Carleton. Pittsburgh on a huge run, and Thorne telling his team to calm down, let's be patient. Run the offense that's worked so well in the recent memory.
Tyler going deep.
Connor coming in underneath. Behind him, and trading errors are now with Pittsburgh and Carleton.
I'm shocked that Alex Thorne did not put that one deep to Tyler DiGirolamo.
Montague now for Carleton. Trying to recover. Long. Herskew. We've really seen Carleton out of sync for the first time in a very long time. Pittsburgh getting Carleton out of their comfort zone, forcing them to move not between handlers, but more between the cutters. DiGirolamo marking Montague. Back to Herskew. Vertical stack with three handlers back for Carleton. Montague trying to get around Trent Dillon to his demise. Cannot get to Childs Walker. Reynolds.
Will we see another end zone stand here from Pitt? The D pressure is good.
DiGirolamo is having an effect on the game right now with his defense and his mark.
What a put out. Ruled in by observer
Trent
Greg Connolly.
Dillon wishes he had made a bid on that one.
10-9, Carleton leads.
You know, just as I say it, DiGirolamo had a great mark in that play, but sometimes great throwers just make great plays.
Unbelievable throw. So Simon Montague is one of the best in the game.
Tight window, and what you saw there was earlier on in the point, Simon Montague was able to break the mark on the inside with a forehand. I think his fake there, his making Tyler DiGirolamo shift, respect that inside, opened up the backhand around.
Opened up a dirty backhand around. That was a sweet throw. Little air bounce on there. Few players in the college game can make that throw with that much touch in that situation.
Again, I was surprised to not see Alex Thorne throw that one deep to Tyler DiGirolamo. Their deep game has been proving effective in getting them this run back to make it a one-point game. That would have been Pitt's first lead of the game.
Carleton settled down a little bit, but looks like they're powering up this defensive line. We see Stewart on there. We'll see if they'll match him up against DiGirolamo. Kunsa back to Saul. Thorne wide open. Again, Montague, see how far he is off of the mark. Max Thorne putting it deep for Watson. Needs to bring this in. It's going to be pick call. We have a push-off foul called.
Interesting. It looked like there was physicality throughout the play. You see the push-off supposedly here. Looks like both players bumping.
That's a great cut. That is sealing out your defender from the space that you're about to cut to and just making a great cut.
Thorne. Hunting his younger brother, flip to Thorne. Underneath to DiGirolamo, bobbles the catch.
Good defensive pressure here from Carleton.
Putting it out to Alex. Monty, who can't quite get there, and Thorne reels it in for his third goal of the game. Alex Thorne, the stat sheet doesn't lie. The impact he's had, 3 goals, 3 assists, 1 D. Huge player.
That was DiGirolamo knowing Thorne. Thorne actually cut up line after that throw. DiGirolamo stayed with Thorne. Thorne pointed to the corner of the end zone. DiGirolamo trusted that he could not only put that throw there, but that Thorne would come down with it. Luckily, Montague did not make a play.
Here's again Montague's throw. Montague breaking the markup line. Both teams exhibiting great throwing technique and skill.
This is just a treat to watch. The wind really has not been a factor in the second half of this game.
It's died down substantially. You're absolutely right.
And that significantly favors Pittsburgh.
You think so?
Absolutely. It's opened up their Huck game, which wasn't firing in the first half. Thorne overthrew a couple throws in the first half. It's allowed, they've had a number of deep goals this game, which is allowing their underneath game to get opened up and them to move the ball quickly. That when it's windy, that favors Carleton's offense, which is handler dominated.
Nick Kazmarek urging on the crowd of Pittsburgh, trying to get the energy instilled. Pittsburgh has not led yet in this game. 10-10, 5 minutes till soft cap.
Another Pitt out of bounds pull. Frustrating.
Despite that, they have still found ways to come up with defensive opportunities.
Very good point. Their pressure has amped up.
Erskew looking upfield, finding Childs Walker. Dillon drawing that tough matchup. Stewart underneath. Bumping on the mark. Stewart. This one's coming back. Foul called.
Stewart caught a break. His receivers weren't even looking at him.
That was a strange throw. You know, the one thing I'm pretty surprised at right now is I have not seen Julian Childs Walker catch a deep goal, and yet he continues to get underneath. If you are Trent Dillon marking up on him, you can start to play a little bit more risky in front by a little bit more. Give yourself a cushion. Julian's providing too many downfield cuts, eating up too many yards. You have to take a risk. You have to force him deep.
Looks like to me Stewart was bumped several times in the mark. Thought he had a free throw in that one. Hence why he was just trying to fight through Connor, who's been playing very physical. Right now we have the observers meeting to decide here. Pivotal call.
What's interesting a lot of times about a physical mark is they will bump early. But
it's ruled a turnover.
As soon as it has to be a bump on the throwing motion. If a bump occurs, the mark steps back and then the thrower decides to throw, it's not a foul. It's a tactic to be used. It frustrates many, but the foul has to occur on the throw itself. And it looked like, despite early physicality in the mark, the bump did not occur on the specific throwing motion here. Could lead to a turnover, and it does.
I think here with Colin Connor, Nick Stewart is a very fiery guy, very emotional, big personality. Colin Connor has been playing physically with him all game. Wonder if that was their goal from the start of the game.
Houseman is playing incredibly. That's him with the disc. Had a nasty cut to get open.
Jacking this one deep for the freshman Dillon. Dillon runs it down in Pittsburgh.
Another Huck.
Lead of the game, 11-10 over Carleton.
Pittsburgh is feeling it right now. Carleton does not appear phased. I like Carleton's resilience, but man, is Pittsburgh into it.
The non-windy conditions have favored Pittsburgh in this half.
The flags are barely moving now, too. We can see there's practically, this is perfect weather.
Houseman has been huge in this half.
2 goals and 1 assist, and an incredible assist at that. Just what a throw. Trent Dillon, from Radnor High School, another one of those talented Pittsburgh freshmen. Also a finalist for Sky Magazine's Freshman of the Year, along with Max Thorne.
Numerous freshmen really standing out on this Pitt roster. That speaks to not only this year's success, but years to come. They will be dangerous.
We also see another freshman on the field, Joe Bender, has first points of the game. Defending now, we're trying to keep, assuming Kazmarek is trying to keep things fresh.
The day has changed in terms of conditions. The sun is out, it's starting to get warm. The wind has completely died. You call this a thrower's wind.
We finally have an inbounds pull for Pittsburgh, and this could be dangerous. Norden finding Stewart, flip to Montague, and we have a call on the play.
Also of note on that last play, both Thorne and DiGirolamo were not on the field. That was the D-line on their own generating a break, and give the credit to Houseman on the dump D on Montague, didn't let him touch the disc, then comes up with a great cut and a laser beam accurate throw.
Stewart called for the travel. Uncontested. We have a violation. Montague leaving a little bit early, according to DiGirolamo. Normally we see DiGirolamo lead his team in goals, but this game has been an exception. Still with 2 goals in this game, but we expected just a little bit more of the offense to be based around him. Soft cap going off. Montague forced to go with a hammer. Clark looked like he picked that one up off the ground.
That one did not look up to me. We'll see it again here.
Being ruled down by the observer.
Yeah, that's down. Replay clearly shows that hits ground there. Then it's caught. It's not even close. You got to hand it to the downfield defense there. A lot of things shut down. Simon looked to the hammer early because it was there, but it's a tougher option.
Pittsburgh continues to have the momentum in their favor, down 8-3 going into the second half. An incredible turn of events. Now on an 8-2 run. I think DiGirolamo, Kaufman, Dropcho, Thorne.
Expect to see Thorne and DiGirolamo
Thorne with a beautiful throw. It doesn't get better than that, and Pittsburgh takes another step towards a win, 12-10. Game to 14 with soft cap. Incredible high release flick.
This is a 9-2 run. Down 8-3, now up 12-10. 9-2 run.
Again, timeout called early in the second half by Carleton, and they have not used that last timeout, and they have not recovered since that point. I am shocked, honestly, that there has not been a timeout called on a 9-2 run.
This is a collapse.
And let's talk about how this all started. Carleton had the disc, 2 end zone possessions to get that goal when it was 9-3 or 9-2. And we had that Simon Montague hammer over the top that almost was towed in, but was not a goal. Carleton got a little bit complacent, did not want to work for that goal, and that was the first goal that Pittsburgh was able to come up with that led to this incredible comeback.
We are watching a game that could become Pitt's most famous, best game in the history of their program. This is a comeback and a half.
They have not yet broken through to finals. This would be a monumental upset and win, even though Pittsburgh is seated higher. People expecting Carleton to take it home. And a vertical stack, we see a change in offense. Montague picks up a throw behind him, and this one, he's striking for Stewart.
That's a bomb.
Just too far out in front, and we're seeing CUT be anti-CUT right now. Not the machine-like quality we saw at the beginning of the game.
I'm not against the look. Just didn't execute, and you have to at this point.
Pittsburgh's lockdown defense has been incredible in the second half. They have forced difficult throws. They've had a number of end zone stands, and they're forcing Carleton to make difficult throws. They've gone forehand, which means that the throws, if they're going to break, have been inside-out forehands, and that's made all the difference here in the second half.
And this is some classic Pitt offense. Take some tough shots and then move the disc quickly.
Thorne, Kunsa. Back to Thorne. Thorne is playing back as a handler. And this one to Hausman again. No, can't make the catch. There is contact,
That
but
looks
Reynolds,
painful. John Reynolds coming up again.
third D of the game. He did have inside position. I would be surprised if a foul call was made after this, but we do have
Looks like
Reynolds writhing in pain.
Looks like his left knee.
And Hausman also down. I hope they're not seriously injured.
That was a serious collision.
Alex Thorne on the huck. Number 10, John Reynolds for Carleton.
Very awkward for
Number
both.
7,
Reynolds actually looked like he may have twisted his leg after he got hit underneath his body. He got hit to the ground and came down with all of his weight in a really weird way on his leg.
Favoring his left leg. Looked like he was holding his left knee.
Fortunately, it looks like Reynolds may have to leave this game, but glad to see that he's not seriously injured. That was a hard collision.
He's still on the ground. Knee injuries, probably the scariest in Ultimate. He's still down. That's the worst thing. You just hate seeing that. But turnover Pitt, Carleton ball.
Carleton, Norden telling his receivers to bring it in. Clear out that deep space. Stewart running through Connor, and we have jostling for position.
Stewart just tried to clear out his cutter. He didn't even really need to do it. The defender is saying that he pushed off with his elbow. You can see it with his body language, what he's saying. But Stewart's just a big boy. Probably didn't need to even put his elbow up. He had his defender sealed, just needs to plant with that outside left foot and come underneath.
Observer rules no foul. Both players jockeying for position. And we'll start out again. Stewart with a clear path to disc. Norden to Montague. Throws just have not been as crisp for Carleton. Stewart. Childs Walker.
Excellent job by Dylan to shut down both of those huck looks.
Norden putting out for Childs Walker. Dylan running it down. Overthrown. Childs Walker with a misread.
Excellent job by Trent Dillon taking the inside line, forced Childs Walker to try to make a play on this one. You're going to see him take the inside line, and the fact that he was there pressured Childs Walker to not just run it out for the clap catch.
I'm surprised he didn't there. He could have. There was no body contact. That was a catchable throw.
Dylan. The around. Connor can't come up with it. We have a turnover. Norden. This is a pivotal possession for Carleton.
Coaches actually need to get involved here. Get a timeout. Multiple turnovers like this, you need to take a timeout. Doesn't matter if it's the last timeout of the game. This is the most important point of the game. If you don't score and get the look you want, the game might be over if you're Carleton.
And Long comes up with this. And we have Carleton back on the board.
Pitt's success has been easy shots to hucks.
See the defensive work for a long time for Pittsburgh going on that huge run. Now we see the offensive line return. We are 13 minutes to hard cap, a game to 14. We have a timeout by Coke. And we'll be back to see the conclusion of this game. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2012 College Championships. And we're back here in Boulder with an exciting semifinal matchup. Carleton down 11-12 to Pittsburgh in our first semifinal of the day in the Open Division. Pittsburgh down 8-3 at halftime, a 9-3 run they've been on. Defense has been incredible. Carleton has just responded. We have a game to 14, 12-11 again, Pittsburgh leads. Carleton with a pull. Pittsburgh looking to break through for their first appearance in a title game in team's history. Becoming one of the premier programs in the nation since 2005. Thorne putting it deep, and DiGirolamo versus Weiss. DiGirolamo comes down with it for the goal. 13-11. Pittsburgh is 1 point away from completing a miraculous comeback.
Pitt's deep game incredibly impressive. On that one, it was surprising to see Alex Thorne come under almost unguarded.
I'm surprised Thorne still even had the cannon to throw that at. It looked like he missed the opportunity, but saw him. Quick delivery. DiGirolamo truly makes a play on this one.
It's a questionable matchup putting Logan Weiss on Tyler DiGirolamo. Tyler has height. Tyler probably has a level of athleticism, and Tyler certainly has weight on him. There we saw a slight bump preventing Logan from getting any sort of jump on the disc. Tyler's size taking over. DiGirolamo is just a potent threat. The game is in soft cap. That means we've added 2 to the score of 12. The soft cap went on at, I believe, 12-10. The game is now to 14. Pittsburgh is 1 point away from going to the national championship finals in the Opens division. This will be the first time in their history, and they are pumped.
The winner of this game will face the winner of Oregon-Wisco later on today. Ball goes up, Hurstu back. Must score a point. Every single point now is pivotal for Carleton. Keller.
Montague downfield this point.
Norden finding Stewart. Finding Weiss. Back to Montague. Norden makes a great move on Kunsa. Putting it out to space. Stewart reels this one in, and Cut's still alive. Down 13-12 to Pittsburgh.
Now the Cut D has its test. They need 2 straight breaks to win this game.
A trying task against this Pittsburgh offense that has looked exceptional in this second half.
The wind picking up just a little bit. You know Carleton was hoping for that wind to continue.
Norden saw his man in the back of the end zone. That's Stewart's 3rd goal. For Pitt, the stats tell the story. Alex Thorne, 3 goals, 4 assists. Tyler DiGirolamo, 2 goals, 3 assists, most of them to each other. The stars coming through big in the biggest game in this program's history for Pittsburgh.
And we see the effect Montague has had on Carleton. 6 assists for Montague on the other side. Thanks to our friends at LeagueVine, leaguevine.com, where you can keep track of all your stats. Keep track of your own team stats. You can, for leagues, any application. Doing a great job here at Nationals for us. Inside look of the game. Stewart, this pull drifting out of bounds. We see still some youth on the field. Max Thorne, freshman, when it matters most, playing with his older brother Alex. Many of these Pitt players have learned the game together. Saul to Alex. DiGirolamo. And Thorne is booking deep. Finding Saul back. DiGirolamo to Thorne. Saul right there. Thorne makes the grab, and Pittsburgh is going to the finals for the first time in team history. An incredible comeback. Alex Thorne seals the deal with his 4th goal of the game. Doesn't get much better than that.
What a game. What a game.
Thorne and DiGirolamo, as we mentioned, they were the story on that last point. Thorne got open whenever he wanted. DiGirolamo took what was given to him, took the under, kept the disc moving. Thorne with the give and go, and Thorne ends up in the back of the end zone, unguarded for the game-winning goal. Pittsburgh, you can't ask for more momentum than what they just did going into a final tomorrow.
And Carleton heartbroken.
Having your back against the wall, down 8-3 at
Yes.
halftime, coming back, trusting your system, riding your stars. Pittsburgh is primed for a championship.
11-4, and I can say right now, I think the monkey might be off of Pitt's back. They have not got to the finals before. They have not beaten Carleton when it matters. This could be that defining win up going into that championship game that could give them the confidence to do it all. We'll see Pittsburgh face off against the winner of Oregon versus Wisconsin later on today. We also have some women's coverage coming up. Next semifinal, we'll have a crew on for that. We'll see Washington versus Tufts. Tufts a surprise victor coming through to the semifinals. We'll be back on around 1 o'clock local time today. Thanks for joining in. This has been Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2012 College Championships with Tyler Kinley and Mario Brian Jones. Thanks for listening in.